Hi guys, and welcome back. I hope you had a fairly restful wee break. Got out into the snow. I'm personally glad the snow is gone, so we can actually go out again. But obviously, you might not be feeling quite so happy. Um, this lesson's not going to be that long. It's just going to be me doing a bit of recapping on what we've done and explaining what's to come, and just giving you a bit more information about kind of how things are going right now. So the first thing I do want to talk about is Google Meet. Now, I am not a big fan of Google Meet myself. I prefer for you to be able to do the work in any time that you've kind of got. Um, if you would prefer to do the work in the evening, then that's fine. And having a video means you can do that. However, there's some times when a Google Meet has to happen because I do need to be doing stuff kind of live with you. It just wouldn't really work in a video context. And that was the case with last lesson because I was asking you to be annotating a poem alongside me. So you were supposed to be looking for metaphors and similes and all that kind of stuff. Um, I was quite disappointed that not that many people showed up to the meet. And there's a couple of things like I do understand that not all of you have got access to computers all the time and things like that, but I did give you advance warning of the Google Meet that was going to happen, including kind of putting up the poem that I wanted you to have in front of you. Email me and let me know if you are not going to be able to make it. Maybe two people emailed to say, I think most of them were emailed and say sorry they'd missed it actually. I don't even know if anybody really, maybe one person emailed me saying, I'm not going to be able to make the Google Meet. It's like a class. It's like you didn't show up to class. It's like the bell rang and only sort of 7 or 8 people walked in the door. It's not acceptable at all. Again, I'm not going to do these very often. I wouldn't. I'm like I'll only do them when a Google Meet is needed. But that's a lot of people I now have to put as not having turned up. I just finished marking the work from that, the questions and the poems. First of all, there's still a bunch of you that did not do the work, which makes me think you didn't even look at it because it was on a Google Meet. But those of you who did do the work, a lot of you were not getting the right answers, which are answers I said in the Google Meet, and it's because you didn't show up. Okay, so this has to change. If I do another Google Meet, I expect to have a lot more people, or expect you to let me know if you're not going to be able to join it. Okay, that's my kind of rant over. It's important that we now have to go over that poem again because so many of you missed it. So I'm going to go over the questions, have a quick chat about them, and then I'm going to tell you what we're moving on to after that. So first of all, I'm going to go to the actual questions. So there weren't that many, 7 questions out of 12 because there were a few different ones. So just as a recap, Old Tongue is a poem by a Scottish writer, a poet. She is really famous, and it's about how when she was a kid, she was made to move to England, and her accent went away, and she felt really sad about it. She felt almost like her language like abandoned her in the night, and she could never get it back, and it was quite traumatic for her. So the questions really quickly. What's the poem about? Well, I've just summarised that. Number 2, when I was 8, I was forced south. What does the word forced tell you about her attitude towards moving south? This should have been an easy question. If she was forced, it meant it wasn't her choice. She didn't want to. That's an easy enough one. Which word in stanza 1 tells you how the poet felt about losing her accent? And you've got to find one word. So you couldn't have done forced because we already did that one, but strange, that would have been fine. Even the word lost would have been fine. See all these ones? These are just Scots words. They're just a list of words. It doesn't tell you much about how she feels. So a lot of you did just quote the Scots words, but that doesn't really, that's not really, that doesn't give you any idea. Whereas it was strange, what tells you that she was uncomfortable with it. Or lost, it suggests that she can like never get them back, never get the words back. That tells you how she feels. Okay, I didn't actually have to you didn't have to explain it. You could have just quoted strange or lost and you would have got it. Why is second half of the stanza in italics? This is the old copy of it. I think I uploaded a new copy of it, so it should look like this. Oops. It should look like this. Again, I was surprised when people didn't get this. It's Scots words. That's all. Let's do this. It's in italics because it's Scots. Yeah, I'm not quite sure why some people struggle with that one. Number 5, I turn my back on Scotland. Now, this is something I talked about loads in the lesson, And that's why it really annoyed me when so many of you didn't get this right, because even ones who were in the lesson, because I talked about it a lot, I turned my back on Scotland is both a metaphor and it's literal. So she turned her back, she obviously moved away from it. But to turn your back on someone, if someone says, don't turn your back on, you turned your back on this family, or you turned your back on what you believed in, it means you betrayed it. It means you've let it down. That's what turn my back means as a metaphor. So what does the poet mean? It means that she feels that she's kind of betrayed it. She feels guilty. She feels unhappy about it. Okay? Now that's a hard question, but it wouldn't have been hard if you'd have watched the lesson, if you'd have been there. Okay? Number 6, 3 words in stanza 2 to describe how she feels about her new accent. Oh, that's not the right thing. So you've got a lot of these words here that describe the new words, like ghastly and awful and dreadful. So she's deliberately chosen words that are also reflecting how she feels dreadful and things like that. Even the word like disappeared is quite good. So anything there is absolutely fine. And why do you think the poet is addressing her? Who do you think the poet is addressing her questions to in stanza 3? So she says, did you ever feel sad when you lost a word? Did you ever try and call it back? Well, she's trying to talk to, somebody said she's kind of asking herself. And I think that's quite a good answer too, because it's like suggests that she is trying to understand it herself. But I think an equally correct answer is that she's trying to address it to us. Why would any poets address their poems to us? Well, maybe they're trying to help us understand what it feels like. Maybe they're trying to help us relate to her, because the whole point of poetry is to try and explain to people your emotions and try and show them how you feel. At the same time, like, maybe you guys won't know much about this, but, you know, she is the Macker of Scotland, which means she's our kind of our top poet. Whenever anyone wants a poem written, they might go to her. It's kind of like she's got like top poet job of Scotland. And a few people have said, well, you don't even sound Scottish. So maybe this poem's also addressed people like that who were maybe judging her. A lot of you struggle with that question. I think you definitely could have had a go with it. So that's that. I'm not going to do any more of that. I thought it was important to explain to you the questions. And those of you who have not done these questions, I would like you to go back and have a go. And seeing as I've gone through all the answers, there's no excuse for you not to do well, okay? Because only about half the class have answered these questions. Maybe more will have done it by the time this video goes up, because I'm currently recording this video on Friday, which was the deadline, okay? So hopefully there's a few more and you'll get those marked. But I thought I'd better record the video and give you the feedback after having done the marking that I've done so far. Right. I've been having to think about this, and because the way that I think there's a few people that are kind of struggling with the poem, and the fact that I don't have the time in class to be able to give you the support that I want to, we are going to see this as the kind of conclusion to this unit. Okay, we're going to just end on Old Tongue. Now, usually I might make the class write an essay about the poem, but I genuinely think that's going to be too challenging to do, like with me from home and you in your own homes. This is something that I would be coming over and helping you and doing kind of stage by stage and working with groups and stuff. So I suppose you can count yourself lucky you're not having to do an essay, so you can have a small celebration. And we're going to move on. So we have 6 weeks until the Easter holidays. I think the hope is that we might see you after the Easter holidays, or maybe we'll see you before then. That would be brilliant. But at the moment, I'm just planning for the next 6 weeks. So we're going to be doing a totally different unit of work. It's not poetry. It's not even really a book. So in English, we teach you 3 main areas. We teach you reading, writing, and an area called talking and listening. Now, reading is anytime we do a book or poem or anything like that and write an essay on it, that still counts as reading. Writing was like your creative writing, which we've done. And we're going to be doing a bit of a unit on listening. So it's going to involve much less, like you're barely going to have to read anything, which is brilliant. And it's going to involve you watching videos and listening to me read a story. And then we're going to be having like tasks and discussions around it. Okay, so I think that sounds pretty fun, or it should do to you. So I'm just going to load up the slides for it. So our unit is going to be called Gods and Heroes. Now, this might be an area that some of you know more about than others. This is something that I actually specialised in when I was at university, and it's about Greek mythology. Okay, so the stories and the gods and all that kind of stuff in ancient Greece. This is thousands of years ago, but also not real, because mythology means it's a myth. So they're not actually true stories. Some people think that some of them are true, but you can take it up with them. So this week we're not going to be doing too much. I just want to really quickly explain to you what it's about. As I said already, it's going to be a listening unit. So I'll be reading aloud the stories. You won't be able to look them up or follow along. So it's going to involve actually paying attention to these videos, which I hope you do. And for the most part, we're going to be looking at one of the oldest stories ever told. It's called the story about the fall of Troy. There's a movie called Troy. It's kind of similar to that, but not really. And it's quite a long story and it encompasses lots of other things in. But before we even start, here's what your task is for this week. And I'm going to give you the whole week to do it, okay? You are going to choose a Greek god and a Greek hero. Here are my lists of gods, and here is my list of heroes. So you're going to choose one from each column. Then you're going to research using books if you have them, the internet, anything you want, to try and find as much information about this god and this hero to make an informative document, either in like a Word document or a PowerPoint, which will include information about both of your people, your god and your hero. So this PowerPoint or document could include notes or pictures, opinions, stories, history, whatever. I think it's probably easiest to do PowerPoint. You can do a separate PowerPoint, one for your god and one for your hero, but it's probably easier just to put them into the same PowerPoint. I do like definitely pictures and things like that. Please make them as informative as possible. But really, this is an opportunity for you to get your research skills really, really good. One word of advice. You might have to be careful about the way that you are phrasing things into Google. For example, see Jason is a famous hero. If you just type in Jason into Google, it's just going to come up with famous people called Jason. So you might need to put Jason and then Greek hero or something like that. So that you understand what I mean. Okay, so maybe some of the names you might have to write Greek hero. So pick which one you want from each one, and then you're going to write, come up with a PowerPoint or a Word document that gives me loads of information about both of them. So you might do an informative one on Hermes and an informative one on Achilles, for example. Okay, please give me an email if you've got any questions about this, but I think this should be a pretty easy and pretty fun task. I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with. Again, you've got the week to do this, so you've got plenty of time to make it really, really detailed. Right, guys, I have noticed that you have been working really, really well up until now. We've seen a little bit of a slump where people have maybe not been engaging quite as much. This is your opportunity to try and get back on board. I've set a task that you can do in your own time, and you can spend as much, or I suppose as little time on it as you think is necessary. I'll leave it to you to decide how much time, obviously don't kill yourself. Don't do like 3 hours of research every day, but at least put in a bit of time into making these nice and informative. I will see you next week though. And I was going to say enjoy your weekend, but for you watching this, it's Monday. I'm going to enjoy my weekend. Goodbye.